Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is going to be a video covering two new options from Ziigaat. I have the Arcanis, which is a 2 dynamic driver, 5 balanced armature hybrid, and then we have the Lush at 1 dynamic driver, 4 balanced armature. This is a pretty tough one. These are both fairly good in a lot of games. There is just, I think, a few things that kind of pull each one ahead or a little bit behind in certain titles. But these IEMs are fairly similar in overall size and build. The Lush comes off to the eye a little bit smaller in the overall chassis, and they are both, of course, resin chassis with very pretty faceplates. The Lush is a kind of silver, glittery black, and the Arcanis has a really nice green tone to it with a darker green sparkle on top and some silver specks there on the faceplate. I think both of them are very aesthetically pleasing to the eye, and depending on your preferences there for color, a little bit more neutral with just silvers and blacks, I think they both look great. The fit on both of these is fairly similar to the Arete and fairly similar to other IEMs in the Ziigaat lineup. To show you guys what you get in the box, the unboxing is fairly similar to the other IEMs in the Ziigaat line. It's not anything particularly breathtaking in terms of an unboxing experience, but you do get that default black cable and some ear tips in the carrying pouch, which does have a similar build and aesthetic to the things that you get with the Arete and some of the other IEMs in their lineup. Now, just to kind of start here, I'll show you guys a graph of these IEMs. Both of these are really nice at their respective price points from a music listening perspective. But some of the things that you'll notice on the graph is the kind of bigger dip into the mid bass and mids on the Arcanis. To me, in a kind of music listening experience and what that does in game, it does make things feel a little bit more emphasized in the bass region, more particularly in the sub bass boost compared to the mid bass, and then it has a greater climb leading into the upper mids, which I think does have an impact on picking up some of the things in game like slides, shuffles, lighter taps, and things like that. So you've kind of got a bit more emphasis in footsteps in both of those regions. I do find, however, that the delayed climb in the 1 to 2K region on the Lush does help make it feel a little bit more relaxed with certain things like gunfire, particularly in COD and Apex Legends. From a music listening perspective, I think both of these are great. The bass attack and decay on both of these IEMs to me feels great. The Lush still maintains a fairly wide feeling and spacious soundstage with a upper mid-range, again, that does feel more relaxed. So depending on how you like that in comparison to something like the Arcanis. But the Lush does fill a kind of a void in my IEM lineup from Ziigaat right now with, again, a treble that feels a little bit more relaxed. It's a smooth sounding IEM. Has a bit of a bass boost as well in the sub region, but still not overwhelming. It's not a bass headset. So there's still a lot of detail, a lot of analytical reference nature to the mid-range, and they both separate and layer fairly well in music as well. Both sound very resolving for their respective price ranges, and the Lush, again, feels... they both feel rather natural in that mid-range, but I do think that the Lush is maybe not as mid-vocal forward. So things do feel as though they pierce through a little bit more in the upper region and the bass region on the Arcanis, but Arcanis maintaining a little bit of warmth as well. It's not this like sterile IEM. Reminds me a bit of the Yanyan Canon Pro that I recently reviewed, but I am leaning towards the Arcanis more for both gaming as well as music listening as well. The Arcanis also a wide, nice, open soundstage, but things feel a little bit more holographic in the sense that things just pop out a little bit more in the respective regions that we see here on the graph. Things like the bassier footsteps, as well as some of the lighter slides and shuffles and gunfire around the map, piercing through a little bit more than it does on the Lush. Both of these, though, are very good IEMs with bass that feels clean. It's not bloated. They both have a resolving clean mid-range. Again, I find the treble region to be a little bit more compelling on the Arcanis, a little bit more relaxed on the Lush. But both of these would provide a really nice listening experience for music. I do want to focus on gaming, and just so you guys know and can see, I used the same cable and the same ear tips when testing these A and B testing, going back and forth. I'm going to start with Valorant. I did test CS2 for this video as well. Let's get into it. So getting into my testing, this is going to be quite difficult to really parse these out for Valorant. The Lush feels a little bit darker. It has a little bit of this smooth lushness to it on the low end leading into the mids. And to me, it also makes the upper region feel a little bit more recessed as well, in the sense of gunfire. So the things that are happening around the map do feel a little bit more holographic on the Arcanis, and the imaging is fantastic. The depth, the separation, the layering is fantastic on both of these sets in Valorant. But when we're talking about things happening around the map, gunfire, abilities, people walking, they come through a little bit more shouty, a little bit more elevated, a little bit more pungent on the Arcanis. But that's a great thing if that's what you're looking for. But I feel like the Lush is in a really interesting territory because not a lot of IEMs are kind of coming across with that darkness and still maintaining a really great imaging, separation, and layering, and a bass that's not bloaty. The bass still feels fast, the imaging is fantastic, and the separation and layering is great in Valorant. So think about being in a space and the gunfire still being read with absolute precision. Audio cues are still coming in fantastically in terms of horizontal depth perception on footsteps and depth perception in front of me. Just absolute precision. But the gunfire being a little bit more off of me and a little bit more dissipated, I just feel as though it's easier to pay attention to some of the things that are happening around me. To me, there might be a little bit of bias just because the Lush comes off as a little bit different than what I've been testing a lot recently. But overall, I do really like the tuning. It just feels refreshing. And at this price point, I would say the performance is on par with both of these. For Valorant, these are both top tier sets. I'd have to give them an A to an A minus. I think the Mangird Tea Pro, the imaging might feel just ever so slightly better. But overall, like, these sets are on par, I feel, in that A territory for Valorant. I do just lean towards the Lush between these two because having a little bit of reduction in that shoutiness on gunfire and abilities, again, it just feels like this pleasing, smooth experience while maintaining this really nice imaging, that it really just is a nice change and a nice addition, I feel, to Ziigaat's lineup. The Arcanis, again, it's absolutely amazing. Think a little bit more holographic. The spacing feels a little bit more accurate, and that's because the hits with the gunfire, the footsteps, some of the bassier things kind of feel a little bit more pungent when they're happening. They hit with a lot more emphasis. But again, like, just that smoothness to me is striking me right now on the Lush. I'm really, really liking this, particularly at the price point for that performance if you're looking for something a little bit darker and a little bit smoother. Now, swapping into COD, the description of Valorant is pretty actually good carrying over to the discussion for COD. The Arcanis, everything is a lot more potent in terms of what is happening within the mix around you. So slides are more readable, they're louder, people running on top of you, below you, people running closer to you, gunfire at a distance. Everything is a little bit more pungent, a little bit more urgent, or hits with a little bit more urgency. So it's definitely easier to pick up things that are happening around you with a little bit of a better read in COD on the Arcanis than the Lush. The Lush has that same effect with controlling gunfire a little bit more. Things are, again, a little bit more relaxed, a little bit smoother. But I would have to put the Lush behind the Mangird Tea Pro and behind the Arcanis. And then the Arcanis versus Tea Pro discussion is a little bit more of a fight. I think they perform at about the same level in COD. I think, again, the Tea Pro just feels a little bit more relaxed in terms of the staging, a little bit more breathability when there's a lot of gunfire going on. The Arcanis, things hit a little bit more. But again, I just find myself kind of leaning to the Arcanis for Call of Duty just because things are sticking out of the mix so well that it's really like my sense of urgency towards things is really, really well placed. The Lush is still exceptionally good for Call of Duty. So again, if you wanted that feel, wanted that vibe, I would definitely recommend it. I find both of these sets to have good separation, good layering. I think with a lot of gunfire, the Arcanis gets a little bit hot. But overall, the separation, layering, the imaging on both of these sets is exceptionally good for Call of Duty. Just the audio cues punch, the slides, the kicks, kicking indoors, the footsteps above you, below you, coming closer to you, just an easier perception of those things in COD, which that I think takes some precedence as long as that separation and layering are good. So a very good set for Call of Duty and probably one of the better ones that I've listened to date. In CS, again, I think both of these are quite good. The imaging, depth perception, layering, separation are up there on both of these sets. I find myself leaning towards the Lush on the Arcanis. Gunfire, again, is more pungent. Audio effects from my teammates, the grenades exploding, Molotov cocktails, etc. Lush, it's just a little bit more relaxed, a little bit more controlled, and I feel like all that information, I'm still getting it all. But like when somebody's spraying an AK, your teammate right next to you, it's just a little bit more relaxed and controlled. And I just find I'm having a better experience on the Lush. Again, great sets, but the Lush is quite nice with respect to its control of gunfire in a lot of these titles now that we've been swapping to. So the Lush is really hitting it for me. And again, in CS2 at this price point, an exceptionally good set. When we take the Lush into Apex Legends and the Arcanis, that's when we start to see a few more limitations. So I saved Apex for last. For a reason. In Apex Legends, I personally feel that it's the best stress test for a IEM or a headphone. Just because of the way the audio engine is, you get a great sense of verticality and separation and layering. It's a greater stress test than something like CS or Valorant, just because of the extent of the things going on, and it's not as a muddled mess as Call of Duty with a lot of the audio effects in COD. That it's I think a pretty good stress test. You also, get a greater sense of verticality, how things work on certain IEMs. For me, the Lush, with all the good things that we've said about it, you can see it's got some ups and downs, some really high points in CS2 and Valorant, a little bit lower in COD. But for Apex Legends, it's going to fall behind as well. Like I would not be able to give this greater than a B in Apex Legends. I think the imaging is there, but one of the issues is it's a little bit too relaxed within the space. And some of the lighter things, lighter taps, lighter slides, when you're going up into a building, it just becomes too hard to hear some of those effects going on. So sometimes I'll find myself in a building a little bit too late and feel as though I should have been picking that up a little bit more readily and urgently as I was approaching the building, which I get on the Arcanis. One of the things as well is because some of those lighter things in the, within the space are a little bit harder to read and to get when you are shooting, when abilities are going off, when ults are going off. It's not necessarily like a separation issue, but it kind of is. It's just hard to get those reads on things because of the elevation of everything else. It's just blocking out a lot of those lighter things. So people are climbing up on you and you're missing it. You're not really hearing it. Despite something having good imaging, you get a sense of all of these other things kind of add on and really separate a supreme IEM from something that falls a little bit lower. So I would give the Lush about a B in Apex Legends. When we move to something like the Arcanis, you've got greater emphasis on the things within the space. So gunfire at a distance, it feels as though it has better depth reads within the space because it's more of a targeted hit around you. When you're approaching a building, these slides come through with greater emphasis. The light taps in a building, people popping shield cells, which is very important. The only thing with the Arcanis is that when you are in a fight, let's say you are sitting in a Bangalore smoke and you have a team shooting you, your teammates are shooting, or you're shooting, or you're popping a shield battery, it becomes a little bit harder to read people approaching you because some of those things come through with a great emphasis as well. So I don't find it to be separating and layering quite as well as something like the Mangird Tea Pro. And also, when I'm swapping to the Mangird Tea Pro, I just find like the imaging to be better on the Mangird Tea Pro as well. So the Arcanis for me in Apex Legends, I would give a B+. Again, the imaging is there, but like the Canon Pro, it's just falling behind in some of the other areas. It is clearly distinctively better than the Lush, though, for Apex Legends. It's a pretty good gap between moving from that B range to a B+. But again, some ups and downs. It really is going to boil down to what games you're playing and like what your flavor profile is for other purposes like music and entertainment. For me, because I don't really have like something like the Lush, I'll probably keep it in my lineup. And I do like it for CS and Val because, again, it's bringing that gunfire in a little bit, controlling it, and just a more relaxed, a little bit darker feeling than something like in Arete. I think both of these are great IEMs, but for what I am lacking in my lineup of IEMs, the Lush kind of fills a spot for me. So guys, that is it for the Ziigaat Arcanis and the Lush. I've got a lot of budget IEMs I'm looking at. I've got a few offerings from Kiwi Ears. I have the Keyfine Clean. I have the 7Hz G1. I've got the Lucid by Tekusai. I've got some offerings from Tin Hi-Fi. I promise I will try to get a lot of this stuff for you guys as quickly as I can, but more likely than not, we'll have a budget roundup here as the next video that I do for IEMs, and it should not be any later than either the middle of this week or the end of this week. And the Tangzu Wainer V2 that I have not yet taken out of the box, but so a lot to test. We'll try to work through all of it. It just takes quite a bit of time, some A and B testing, just to be sure that I really feel comfortable placing things where I'm going to place them. But that is going to be it for this one, guys. I hope it helped. If it did, please leave a sub to the channel. See you guys in the next review. Peace.